You didn't end up here by accident. Something broke. Something fell. Maybe it was a relationship that took years of your life and left you with nothing but silence. Maybe it was a business that drained every resource you had. Maybe it was your reputation, your health, your sense of self, stripped down to the bone until you didn't recognize the man staring back at you in the mirror. And the world didn't stop. That's the cruelest part. While you were collapsing, everything kept moving. People kept laughing. Life kept going. And you were left standing in the rubble of something you built or something you trusted, wondering how you're supposed to breathe, let alone rebuild. Most men fall apart at this moment. They beg. They overthink. They reach for distractions, alcohol, anger, cheap validation from people who were never in your corner to begin with. They waste the most dangerous moment of their entire life. Because here is what Machiavelli understood centuries before the modern world was soft enough to forget it. The moment you lose everything is the moment you become capable of anything. Zero is not the end. Zero is where kings are made. Number 2, strip away the weakness. Here is the first lesson Machiavelli teaches a broken man, and it is not gentle, and it was never meant to be. Before you rebuild, you must be willing to look at exactly why you fell. Not with self-pity, not with excuses wrapped in the language of bad luck and bad timing, with cold, surgical honesty. Because most men who hit zero don't fall because the world was cruel. They fall because somewhere along the way, they became soft. They trusted the wrong people and ignored every warning sign because comfort felt better than truth. They abandoned their discipline the moment life got easy and then acted surprised when life stopped being easy. They built their identity on things outside their control, a woman's approval, a boss's validation, a social circle that evaporated the second they stopped being useful. And when those things disappeared, they had nothing left standing because they had never built anything real inside themselves to begin with. This is the darkness that most self-help content will never tell you because it doesn't sell. The truth is savage. The truth is that weakness invited the collapse. And if you refuse to see that, you will rebuild the exact same fragile structure on the exact same cracked foundation, and you will fall again. Harder, faster, with even less left to salvage. But if you are willing, truly willing, to strip every illusion away, to look at your decisions, your patterns, your blind loyalties, and your cowardice without flinching, then something extraordinary happens. You stop being a victim of your circumstances, and you become the architect of what comes next. That shift from victim to architect is not motivational. It is Machiavellian. It is the beginning of real power. Drop "I am the architect" in the comments if this is hitting different. Number 3, the Machiavellian rebuilding mindset. Now listen carefully, because this is where most men make the fatal mistake that guarantees they stay at zero forever. They try to rebuild their life using the same mindset that destroyed it. They rush back to familiar patterns. They chase the same type of people. They recreate the same environment, wear the same identity, repeat the same behaviors, and then call it a fresh start. It is not a fresh start. It is a relapse dressed in optimism. Machiavelli wrote something that the modern world buried under layers of feel-good philosophy, that a man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to ruin among so many who are not good. Read that again. The world is not waiting for you to heal at your own pace. The world is not going to pause while you find yourself. The world is operating on cold logic, self-interest and power, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop playing a game you were never meant to lose. The Machiavellian rebuilding mindset is not about revenge. It is not about proving people wrong. Those are emotional motivations, and emotional motivations make you predictable, reactive, and weak. The Machiavellian rebuilding mindset is about one thing only: strategic dominance over your own life. It means you wake up every single morning and you treat your life like a battlefield that requires calculation, not feeling. It means you identify exactly what resources you have: time, energy, intelligence, reputation, and you deploy them with precision. It means you stop spending your limited energy on people who drain it, conversations that don't serve you, and emotions that keep you anchored to a version of yourself that no longer exists. You are not rebuilding the old life, you are engineering a new one. And engineering requires cold thinking, not warm hope. It requires you to ask ruthless questions. What actually matters? Who actually adds value? Where is my energy producing results? And where is it bleeding out silently into nothing? Machiavelli did not survive the courts of Florence, the prisons, the exile, by being emotional. He survived by being precise, by being patient, by understanding that a man with a clear mind and a long strategy will always outlast a man running on rage and reaction. That is the mindset you must build before you build anything else, because without it, everything you construct will collapse again, and this time, you may not have the strength to get back up. Number 4, silence is your first weapon. When you are rebuilding from zero, the most powerful move you can make is one that costs you nothing and signals everything. Silence. Not the silence of defeat, not the silence of a man who has nothing to say. The silence of a man who has made a decision, a cold, unshakable, private decision, that he is going to rebuild, and he is going to do it without an audience. Because here is what nobody tells you about hitting rock bottom in the age of social media and constant noise. Everybody is watching. Not to cheer for you, not to support you. They are watching to see if you break. They are watching to confirm their quiet belief that you were never that strong to begin with. Old friends who drifted away are refreshing your profile, waiting for evidence that they were right to leave. People who smiled at your face are waiting for your public breakdown to validate their own mediocrity. And the moment you start performing your pain, posting your struggles, narrating your collapse, begging the world for sympathy wrapped in the language of vulnerability, you hand every single one of them exactly what they came for. You become entertainment. You become proof. You become the cautionary tale they whisper about at dinner tables you were never invited to. Machiavelli was ruthlessly clear on this. Men must be either pampered or crushed. And above all, never give your enemies the satisfaction of watching you bleed in public. Go silent. Go dark. Disappear from the spaces where people knew the old version of you. Stop explaining yourself. Stop updating people on your progress. Stop seeking validation from the very environment that contributed to your collapse. Let them wonder. Let them assume. Let the silence build a wall around your rebuilding process that nobody can penetrate, critique, or contaminate. Because every minute you spend performing your pain for an audience is a minute stolen from actually fixing what broke. And every person you let into your rebuilding process before they have earned that access is a liability you cannot afford at zero. The man who rebuilds in silence emerges as someone unrecognizable. And that is precisely the point. You do not want them to see the process. You want them to witness the result. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is the first wall of the fortress you are about to build. Drop "I rebuild in silence" in the comments if you understand what this really means. Number 5. Cut everything that kept you small. This is the part that will cost you the most. Not money, not time, not effort. People, environments, identities, habits. The invisible infrastructure of your old life that felt like comfort but was actually a cage, and you were so used to the bars that you stopped noticing they were there. When a man hits zero and decides to rebuild, the natural instinct is to reach back, to grab the familiar, to call the old friends, return to the old neighborhood, slip back into the old routines. Because familiarity feels like safety when everything else has collapsed. But here is the brutal Machiavellian truth. that will separate the men who truly rebuild from the men who simply recover enough to fall again. Familiarity is not safety. Familiarity is the crime scene. Every person who knew you at your lowest capacity has an unconscious ceiling for who you are allowed to become. Not because they are evil, not because they wish you harm, but because the human mind categorizes people, and once someone has filed you under a certain identity, the struggling one, the lost one, the one who never quite made it, they will resist, consciously or not, every version of you that tries to exceed that category. They will call it concern. They will call it keeping you grounded. They will frame their resistance as loyalty and their limitations as wisdom. And if you are not ruthlessly clear about what is happening, you will shrink back down to fit the box they built for you. Because belonging feels better than becoming, and most men choose belonging every single time. Machiavelli understood that a prince who rises to power must be willing to make decisions that feel cruel in the moment, but are necessary for survival in the long run. Cutting people is not cruelty. Cutting people who are anchoring you to a version of yourself that no longer serves you is surgery. And surgery requires a steady hand, not an emotional one. So you look at every relationship, every environment, every habit, with one cold question: does this belong in the life I am building, or does it belong in the life I am leaving? And you answer that question honestly, without sentiment, without guilt, without the need to explain your decisions to people who were never invested in your growth to begin with. You stop going to the places that remind you of who you were. You stop engaging with the conversations that keep you anchored in old narratives. You stop performing the personality that kept you comfortable and small and liked by people whose opinion was never going to build you anything. Because here is what Machiavelli knew, and what every man who has ever rebuilt himself from nothing eventually discovers: you cannot carry the old world into the new one. The weight will kill you before you reach the other side. Elevation requires subtraction. Power requires pruning. And the man who is willing to cut without hesitation, to walk away without explanation, to disappear from familiar spaces without apology, that man is not cold. That man is not heartless. That man is under construction. And what he is building, the people he left behind will never have access to. Not because he is bitter, but because he is finally, ruthlessly, building for himself. Number 6. Build the foundation no one can see. Most men who try to rebuild from zero make the same catastrophic error. They build outward before they build inward. They chase the visible before they establish the invisible. They want the results, the money, the respect, the status, the woman, the lifestyle, before they have constructed the internal architecture that those things require to survive. And so they get the results, briefly, and then watch them collapse again. Because results without foundation are not success. They are decoration on a crumbling wall. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man must build his fortress first, not his empire. The fortress is internal. The fortress is the part nobody sees, nobody praises, nobody posts about, nobody rewards you for in the short term. But it is the only thing that makes everything else permanent. So what is the foundation? It is discipline, when there is no external pressure forcing you to be disciplined. It is the ability to sit in discomfort without reaching for relief. It is the mental architecture that allows you to function with precision when your emotions are screaming at you to react, to collapse, to seek comfort in something destructive. It is physical, because a man who does not control his body does not control anything. The body is not separate from the mind. The body is the mind's first battleground, and every man who has ever rebuilt himself from zero will tell you that the morning he started training his body with the same seriousness he wanted to apply to his life was the morning everything began to shift. Not because muscles make you powerful, but because the act of disciplining the body every single day, of showing up when you don't want to, of pushing past the point where weakness tells you to stop, of building something incrementally through pure consistency, rewires the way your mind approaches every other area of your life. It teaches you that progress is not an event, it is a process. And processes reward the patient and punish the impulsive every single time. The foundation is also financial, and this must be approached with cold Machiavellian logic, not emotion. When you are at zero, money is not the goal. Stability is the goal. You are not trying to get rich. You are trying to get solid. There is a profound difference. Getting rich is a dream. Getting solid is a decision. It means you stop spending on anything that does not build you. It means you treat every resource you have, every hour, every coin, every unit of energy, as capital to be invested, not consumed. It means you become obsessed, not with looking successful, but with building the quiet, unglamorous infrastructure of a man who cannot be financially destabilized again. And then there is the mental foundation, the reading, the studying, the ruthless auditing of the beliefs you carry about yourself and the world. Because most men are operating on programming installed by people who were themselves lost, themselves limited, themselves afraid. Your parents, your school, your culture, your past relationships, they all deposited beliefs into you that you have been treating as truth, when many of them are simply the inherited limitations of people who never built anything extraordinary themselves. You must go in and audit every belief, every assumption about what you deserve, what is possible, what kind of man you are allowed to become. And you must be willing to delete the ones that don't serve the life you are building, with the same ruthlessness you would apply to cutting a toxic person from your circle. Because a man with a weak mind will sabotage every strong external structure he builds, every time, without exception. The foundation is the work that happens before the work. It is the preparation that makes the execution inevitable. It is the silence before the storm. And the man who is willing to spend months, even years, building what nobody can see, is the man who eventually builds what nobody can touch. Drop "My foundation is unbreakable" in the comments if you are committing to this work right now. Number 7. Master the art of strategic patience. Here is where the truly dangerous men separate themselves from the merely motivated ones. Because motivation is common. Every man who has ever hit rock bottom has felt the surge of motivation in the early days of rebuilding. The fire, the clarity, the absolute certainty that this time will be different. And then, the weeks pass. The results don't come fast enough. The world doesn't respond to their effort on the timeline they demanded. The gap between where they are and where they want to be feels not like a journey, but like a punishment. And one by one, the motivated men quit. They rationalize it. They reframe it. They tell themselves the goal was wrong, the timing was off, the universe had other plans, and they settle back into mediocrity, wrapped in the comfortable language of acceptance. But the strategic men, the Machiavellian men, they do not quit. Not because they are more talented, not because they are more gifted, but because they understand something at a cellular level that the motivated men never grasped. That time is not the enemy of ambition. Time is the weapon of the patient. Machiavelli observed the courts of Italy, the rise and fall of princes, the collapse of empires, and what he documented with cold precision was this: the men who won were rarely the most talented or the most passionate. They were the most patient. They were the ones who understood that power does not respond to urgency. Power responds to consistency. Power responds to the man who shows up every single day, who makes incremental progress that looks invisible from the outside, who builds so quietly and so steadily that by the time the world notices him, he is already untouchable. Strategic patience is not passive. This is the part that most people misunderstand. It is not waiting. It is not hoping. It is not sitting still and trusting that the universe will deliver. Strategic patience is aggressive forward movement executed at a sustainable pace with a long-term vision that does not bend under the pressure of short-term disappointment. It means you set a target so far ahead that daily setbacks become statistically irrelevant. It means you measure your progress in months and years, not days and weeks. It means you develop such a deep and unshakable relationship with your process that outcomes, good or bad, no longer control your emotional state, because your identity is no longer attached to results. Your identity is attached to the work, and the work is something nobody can take from you. Strategic patience also means you learn to read time as a resource rather than a threat. Every man who is ahead of you right now has simply been in the game longer. That is it. There is no magic. There is no secret advantage. There is only the accumulation of consistent action over time, and time is the one resource that is distributed with perfect equality. You have the same hours as the men you admire. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is not luck. The difference is that they refuse to let impatience make their decisions. They refuse to abandon a long game for a short reward. They refuse to sprint in a race that is measured in decades. And there is a dark psychological dimension to strategic patience that Machiavelli understood deeply, and that modern men are completely unprepared for. The longer you stay patient while others around you panic and quit, the more psychologically dominant you become. Because patience in the face of pressure is a display of power. It signals to everyone watching, and people are always watching, that you cannot be rushed, cannot be rattled, cannot be destabilized by circumstances that would destroy a lesser man. It makes you appear inevitable. And a man who appears inevitable eventually becomes inevitable. So you slow down. You breathe. You commit to the process with the cold certainty of a man who already knows how the story ends, because he has decided how it ends. You stop checking for results every morning like a desperate man, and you start building every morning like a king who understands that his kingdom is not built in a season. It is built in a lifetime. And every single day you show up is another brick in a wall that one day nobody will be able to breach. Number 8. Become unreadable, unpredictable, untouchable. Now we enter the territory that Machiavelli reserved for the most advanced students of power. The territory that separates the man who has simply survived his collapse from the man who has used that collapse to evolve into something the world cannot categorize, cannot predict, cannot manipulate, and cannot destroy. Because surviving zero is one thing. Emerging from zero as a different creature entirely, that is the Machiavellian objective. And it requires you to master 3 qualities that work together like the 3 walls of an impenetrable fortress. Unreadable, unpredictable, untouchable. Let us begin with unreadable. Most men are transparent, not because they are honest, but because they are undisciplined. They wear their emotions on their face, their ambitions in their words, their insecurities in their reactions. They telegraph their next move through their excitement. They reveal their wounds through their anger. They expose their fears through what they over-explain and what they defensively avoid. And in doing so, they hand every person around them a detailed map of exactly how to manipulate them, exactly where to apply pressure, exactly which buttons to push to produce a predictable reaction. The man who has been through zero and rebuilt himself correctly becomes unreadable because he has done the internal work to decouple his outer expression from his inner state. He has trained himself through silence, through discipline, through thousands of small moments of choosing composure over reaction, to present a surface that reveals nothing he has not chosen to reveal. His face is neutral in moments that would crack other men. His voice is steady in conversations designed to destabilize him. His energy is controlled in environments engineered to provoke him. He is not robotic. He is not cold for the sake of appearing cold. He is simply a man who understands that information is power, and every emotion you display publicly is information you are giving away for free to people who will use it against you without hesitation. Now unpredictable. There is a profound psychological principle that Machiavelli grasped and that modern dark psychology has since confirmed. Human beings are most afraid of what they cannot anticipate. Fear does not come from strength alone. Fear comes from uncertainty. The man who always reacts the same way, who always follows the same patterns, who can be relied upon to respond predictably to every provocation, that man can be managed. He can be controlled. He can be manipulated by anyone patient enough to study his patterns. But the man who has rebuilt himself from zero has shed the old patterns entirely. He no longer responds the way he used to respond. He no longer values what he used to value. He no longer needs what he used to need. And this makes him genuinely unpredictable, not as a performance, not as a strategy in the shallow sense, but as a natural consequence of his transformation. People who knew the old version of him reach for the old buttons and find they no longer exist. They apply the old pressures and watch them produce no reaction. They expect the old man and encounter someone they cannot read, cannot predict, and therefore cannot control. And that uncertainty, that inability to anticipate what he will do next, is one of the most powerful psychological positions a man can occupy in any relationship, any negotiation, any environment where power is being contested. And then there is untouchable, not physically, psychologically, financially, emotionally. The man who has rebuilt correctly has engineered his life in such a way that the weapons other people reach for simply cannot reach him anymore. He has no desperate financial need that can be exploited. He has no emotional dependency that can be leveraged. He has no reputation built on other people's approval that can be dismantled by gossip or betrayal. He has built his identity from the inside out, anchored in his own values, his own standards, his own private sense of who he is. And because that foundation is internal, it cannot be attacked from the outside. People can talk, people can lie, people can attempt to destabilize him through social pressure, through withdrawal of approval, through the manufactured drama that small people use as weapons because they have no real power of their own. And he watches all of it with the calm detachment of a man standing behind 3 feet of stone, not because he doesn't feel, but because he has built a life where other people's chaos simply has no jurisdiction. That is what zero gives you, if you use it correctly. Not just a second chance, a complete architectural redesign of who you are and how you move through the world. A version of yourself that could not have existed without the collapse. A man who is unreadable, unpredictable, and untouchable, not by accident, not by arrogance, but by deliberate Machiavellian construction. Drop unreadable, unpredictable, untouchable in the comments if you are becoming this man right now. Number 9. Let your results do the talking. There comes a moment in every man's rebuilding journey, a quiet, almost invisible moment where he faces one of the most seductive traps the entire process has to offer. The trap of announcement, the trap of explanation, the trap of needing the world to know what he has been through, what he has survived, what he has built, and what he has become. And it makes sense psychologically. You have been through the darkness. You have done the work that most men will never do. You have cut the dead weight, built the foundation, mastered the patience, engineered the transformation. And there is a deeply human desire to be witnessed in that, to be acknowledged, to have someone look at you and say, "I see what you did, and I understand what it cost you." But here is the cold Machiavellian truth that you must engrave into the operating system of your rebuilt mind. The man who announces his transformation is still seeking validation from the world that broke him. And a man who seeks validation from the world that broke him has not truly rebuilt. He has simply constructed a more elaborate version of the same dependency. Machiavelli was unambiguous about this principle. Never tell people what you are going to do. Show them what you have already done. And even then, let the results speak in a language so undeniable, so overwhelming, so impossible to dismiss or diminish, that your silence becomes louder than any speech you could ever give. Because results are the only currency that the world cannot argue with. People can dismiss your words. They can reframe your intentions. They can take your explanations and twist them into narratives that serve their own agenda. But they cannot argue with a man who is simply, visibly, undeniably winning. They cannot reframe prosperity. They cannot diminish presence. They cannot explain away the quiet, unshakable confidence of a man who has been through the fire and come out on the other side, forged into something harder, sharper, and more dangerous than anything that existed before the collapse. So you stop explaining, you stop defending, you stop narrating the journey to people who were not there for the darkest chapters and do not deserve access to the triumphant ones. You let the work accumulate in silence. You let the results stack without commentary. You let your presence in a room do what your words never could. Communicate power without asking permission. Command respect without demanding it. Occupy space in a way that makes people lean in without understanding why. And there is a dark psychological dimension to this that operates beneath the surface of every social interaction you will ever have. When a man is silent about his success, when he does not explain himself, when he does not seek approval or recognition, the human mind, which is wired to fill silence with meaning, begins to construct narratives about him that are almost always more powerful than the truth. People will assume depths they cannot verify. They will project strength onto his silence that may even exceed what is actually there. They will treat his mystery as evidence of power and his restraint as proof of dominance. And all of this happens automatically, without effort, simply because he had the discipline to keep his mouth closed and let his life speak for itself. This is the art that most men never master, because the ego is loud and impatient and desperate to be seen. But the man who has rebuilt from zero, who has sat in the silence, who has done the invisible work, who has chosen the long game over the short applause, that man has killed the needy ego and replaced it with something colder, quieter, and infinitely more powerful. He does not need to tell you he has rebuilt. You will see it. You will feel it. And by the time you fully understand what you are looking at, he will already be 3 moves ahead, building the next level of something you cannot yet imagine. Number 10. You are the weapon. Now act like it. This is where everything converges. Every lesson, every silence, every cut, every dark morning where you chose discipline over collapse. Every moment you swallowed the pain and kept building when every weak instinct inside you was screaming to stop. It all leads here, to this moment, to this version of you that is standing at the edge of everything you have rebuilt and finally, beginning to understand what you have actually become. You did not just survive zero. You weaponized it. And that is not a metaphor. That is a precise, Machiavellian description of what happens to a man who takes the rawest, most brutal moment of his life and instead of being destroyed by it, uses it as the forge that produces something the world has never seen from him before. A man who has lost everything and rebuilt correctly does not re-enter the world the same way he left it. He re-enters it with a clarity that most men will live and die without ever experiencing. A clarity about what matters and what does not, about who deserves his time and who does not, about where his energy produces power and where it simply bleeds out into the indifference of people who were never worth a single hour of his attention. He re-enters with boundaries so clean and so non-negotiable that people feel them before he ever states them. He re-enters with a standard for his own behavior and the behavior he tolerates that makes mediocrity physically uncomfortable to be around. He re-enters as a man who has been tested at the absolute limit of his capacity and did not break. And that knowledge, that private, unshakable knowledge of what he is capable of surviving, becomes the most solid ground he has ever stood on. Machiavelli's final and most devastating lesson was this: the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. So one must be both the fox and the lion. You have been the fox. Patient, strategic, calculating, moving in silence through the rebuilding process with precision and cold intelligence. Now it is time to be the lion, to move with the full weight of everything you have built, to occupy your life, your ambitions, your standards, your vision, without apology, without hesitation, without the crippling self-doubt that used to make you shrink in rooms where you should have been commanding. Because the world does not reward the man who rebuilt quietly and then continued to live quietly. The world responds to the man who rebuilt quietly and then emerged with such undeniable force, such unshakable presence, such ruthless commitment to his own vision, that the world has no choice but to make room for him. That is you. Not tomorrow. Not when conditions are perfect. Not when you feel ready. Because that feeling will never come on its own, and waiting for it is how men waste the very momentum their rebuilding has created. Now, with what you have, from exactly where you are standing, you are the weapon. The collapse was the forging, the rebuilding was the sharpening, and everything from this point forward is the wielding. So go, build without apology, move without explanation, win without announcement, and become the man that the version of you who hit zero could never have imagined, but always, in the deepest and most honest part of himself, knew was possible. Drop "I am the weapon" in the comments, because if you made it to the end of this, you already know you are not the same man who pressed play. If this hit you hard, and I know it did, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Machiavellian Mind, and turn on the notification bell. Because the knowledge we drop on this channel is not for everyone. It is for the man who is ready to become untouchable. And clearly, that man is you.